Hi, I'm Doug with Hasson and Wong, and I'm here with Bob from Wisconsin. You may know him as Bobman on the internet, those of you who have done a lot of research. Just wanted to ask Bob a few questions about his journey and some experiences. Bob, tell us a little bit about the thought process and when you started thinking about a hair transplant and how that all began.
Sure. I started thinking about a hair transplant really a long time ago, like in the 90s. I lost my hair very young, in my 20s. So considering a hair transplant was something that was on my mind for a while. But I forgot about it for a while as well. Mm-hmm. And went through a hair piece transition, and then I got out of that, and ultimately ended up finding Hasson and Wong.
So early on, your hair loss started to bother you, and you wanted to think about alternatives and how to regain the look.
Well, the reason I wanted to regain the look was I was getting married, and I didn't want to be the bald old guy, you know, in the wedding photos.
Right.
So I ended up getting a hair piece, and at the time it was okay, but it wasn't what I have now.
Right.
In no means, but it got me to what I wanted to be, and for a little while, I want to say on and off for 6 years, I wore it. Yeah.
Now you had mentioned that some of the technology from the older style transplants didn't appeal to you while you were starting to research. It was like that wasn't for you, was
no,
it?
Well, it was the 90s now, looking back, and you could tell that one of the reasons I couldn't do it is I couldn't afford it. Mm-hmm. The main reason why I didn't do it is because it was pluggy looking, it didn't look natural. It was something that always hesitated me to really jump forward into getting something done then.
Right.
I stumbled upon the internet and I found Hasson and Wong. Mm-hmm. And I kept looking at not only were there a lot of patients with amazing results, but there was always new ones being added on.
Right.
And what separated them from anybody else is I could actually view the weblogs of patients who were literally going through the transformation. And that was exciting. But what ultimately separated Hasson and Wong from anybody else was the massive amounts of results.
You saw results from Hasson and Wong that were better than anyone else's, and that kind of drove you to really give it a look.
Yeah, they were better in a sense of they were better documented. The photos didn't seem touched up. Mm-hmm. It just seemed very naked and in your face, and you couldn't really hide what was being done. Mm-hmm. And the fact is that they were doing, Hasson and Wong is doing much more as far as amounts of grafts per session than anybody else that I was looking at.
Really? Now, you've obviously showed your story. You've put your photos out there. You've been a great resource for a lot of guys. So would you say that when you saw these other patients doing that, was that as much a driving force? I mean, you took the results, but then you saw other guys, kind of regular guys like you. Was it a combination of those two that kind of made you decide this is a place for me? Or was it more just looking at the website, seeing the results?
What's interesting is that I got to see a lot of guys that were in my shoes at one time. Mm-hmm. I mean, I was a Norwood 6, headed towards 7, mm-hmm. 6 plus.
Yeah.
I mean, there wasn't much left on top of my head. Uh-huh. So
let me interrupt you there. From what I remember, there wasn't anything left on top of your head.
Okay. But basically what it was is I got to actually kind of find someone who is like me, mm-hmm. watch their progress, see them before, see them during, see their after, and it was, again, it just goes right back to the results that kept me coming back to Hasson and Wong. So ultimately, I just decided that this was a place for me.
I hear the argument that the guys that are a little less educated, they don't know the differences between the clinics, and they think, well, it's a long way to go to Vancouver. Maybe I just go, to my local guy, or maybe I just, hop on a short plane ride, right, half hour away or whatever. What was your thought process on, Vancouver? Was distance ever a concern or an issue, or did you feel like going to the local guy?
No, absolutely not. In fact, that was never really my intention. I was always looking for the result. If Hasson and Wong was in Africa, then I would have went to Africa. Uh-huh. I mean, that's just the way I felt about it. I didn't care. Distance and traveling mean nothing because it's the end result that I was after. Yeah. So I get to go and get it done wherever it's got to get done, but I got to go home and live with it.
Right.
So it doesn't matter where I go. It's just that's a small part of my life. what matters is the rest of my life and the results I get to live thereafter. And I'll be honest with you, travel meant nothing. It was the results that meant everything.
Yeah, and honestly, we have patients that went that route. You know, they thought, well, these guys can probably do, you know, something adequate. I'll just stay local. Ultimately, they end up coming here anyway because they're not happy with what they've gotten. So I always tell guys, yeah, travel shouldn't be an issue because this is something that's going to be on your head forever.
Travel should never be an issue. In fact, that's why I created, you know, the website and documented my journey, so people can see and ask. It's not about comparing, oh, this doctor might be better than this doctor. It's about, what did this doctor do? How well did he do it? How many times over has it been done? I mean, it's a no-brainer. Why? I mean, like, again, you guys can transfer your entire practice to the other side of the globe. Well, I'd be traveling to the other side of the globe to get it done.
You know, once you made the decision to come out here, what was it like coming out here, meeting with the doctor, the surgery? You know, how did everything work out there when you were in town?
My very first trip out here was like a surreal experience because I was watching a lot of these patients, you know, for like a long time, like a year or more, just watching their progress. So when I got here and I got to meet, you know, Joe, which is one of the guys I watched, it was like meeting a celebrity, and it was really kind of wild. So it was a really surreal experience. I took it all in. I enjoyed the whole thing. But Hasson and Wong, you guys did nothing but treat me with the utmost respect. You cared for me. You made me feel very welcome, very comfortable. Any issues that I had were pretty much minute because I kind of knew what to expect based on past patients. But being here was just nothing but a treat, and all 3 times now. Once
you got here, everything pretty much lived up to expectations.
Well, the only thing I was worried about when I got here was my hair, my front. I hadn't had a front for 15 years. So when I got here, I'm like hoping Dr. Hasson can make that part look good, and it came out fine. It
looks great.
Yeah, and
so you were worried about the hairline, how it was going to work out, where it was going to be placed.
Yeah, and so when he sat there and he drew it, and he erased it, then he drew it again, and he erased it, and it kept coming back. And when he finally gave me the mirror and we looked, and after that, I had no worries.
Yeah,
I knew I was in great hands.
So that process takes a little bit of time because he wants to perfect it. He wants to make sure that you're understanding what he's trying to do. You get your input,
and he made me happy.
And you go back and forth, within reason.
Right, it made me happy.
How was the surgery itself, and was it what you expected, or was it easier?
Well, I want to say it was actually exactly what I expected because of my research.
Okay, and now, like as far as the surgery and post-operatively, were you fairly comfortable? Did you have any issues after surgery? Were you in any extra discomfort, or did it go pretty smooth?
Oh, no, not at all. In fact, my first surgery lasted, better part of a 10-hour or more surgery. The second one was around 8-ish hours. Both times, I took my cab back to the hotel and went to bed. I had a little something to eat, went to bed, woke up the next day, came back, had a shampoo, and in no time did I feel like there was major discomfort or pain at all.
Now, did you tell anybody back home, any friends or family, that you were going to do this, or were you kind of keeping it a secret?
No, it's just that's the whole thing too. Keeping it a secret and hiding it is not something I was really into. And as far as everybody knowing, everybody who knows me knew, and they still don't remember that guy. They see me as I am now.
Yeah.
So even people who have to put themselves in a position where they go back to work and they're exposed, it doesn't matter. It's a short thing. It's a month or 2, maybe 3-month thing, and then you're growing hair. You're back to normal. And you're better than normal, and people don't see or remember those things.
Some patients have the luxury of wearing a hat. With today's modern technology that we employ here, very minimal scabbing. Usually things look fairly reasonable within a week or 10 days. Would you say that maybe after a week, 10 days, you just had the short hair and you probably could have gone without a hat at that point?
Actually, yeah. Like I said, I could have, but I didn't.
Because you had the luxury of wearing the hat.
I had the luxury of wearing a hat. And I'll be honest with you, at first it was kind of like a security blanket. Because I kind of wanted to keep things to myself. I kind of wanted to kind of keep it within my family and not share that to the world. The second time, I didn't even care. I didn't wear a hat. I didn't even wear a hat home. It didn't matter.
Yeah, and that was in the back, so it was a little less obvious.
Right.
But
Right.
you were proud of your transformation by then.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Great.